All right, here's my 5 audience members. Imagine a Maryland where the waters aren't swimmable. The vast seafood industry that helps form this region's identity is gone. The air that you and your children and their children breathe is no longer safe, as it contains toxic levels of heavy metals and pesticides. Now imagine this reality took hold tomorrow. Well, many ecologists believe that we're not far from this dystopia unless significant changes to pesticide regulations and farming practices in the Chesapeake watershed change. There are a wide variety of pesticides, both currently legal as well as those that have been banned, that still linger in the waters of the Chesapeake Bay, as well as its biosphere. These chemicals enter the bay, and they include things like weed killers and other pesticides, and they're basically transferred via runoff. Whenever it rains, whenever there's a major storm, they just go straight into the bay. So this topic is of great significance to me, as I'm currently studying environmental science as part of my degree, and I also fish and crab in the Chesapeake River, so I've actually witnessed this pollution firsthand. The health of the Chesapeake Bay is directly affected by the decisions we make, from the pesticides we use to safely disposing of hazardous chemicals. Similarly, farmers in the region are faced with decisions such as whether or not to use pesticides that may protect their crops but in turn damage the environment, or whether to use organic alternatives to these pesticides that are safe for the environment but then in turn may damage their property. So it's ultimately something they weigh. And these choices have a direct impact on the very air we breathe. According to a study from the United States Agricultural Research Service, pesticides, nitrogen, heavy metals, and toxic compounds are literally falling from the sky into the Chesapeake Bay. So, how can these issues be resolved, you may be wondering? Well, through a combination of regulations as well as restorative acts, progress in repairing the Chesapeake Bay is slowly but surely taking place. According to an article from the Department of Agriculture, restoration, such as removing livestock and creating in-stream habitats, can actually strengthen biotic communities. Now, there's multiple ways to visually see for yourself the consequences of pollution in the bay, whether it's oil slicks or algae blooms that result from chemical runoff, or the clear blue waters and abundant wildlife that flourish in the absence of the same runoff. Populations of certain species, such as smallmouth bass, indicate the overall health of the bay is improving. Other indicators, such as present pesticides in these very same species, suggest that these harmful chemicals can actually have lingering effects. According to a 2024 study, sums of pesticides in smallmouth bass samples range from 16.4 to 95 nanograms per milliliter. The key to improving the health of the bay is through positive changes and making these changes. Every farmer that chooses to use organic pesticide alternatives contributes to lowering local runoff, which in turn will have a snowball effect with other farmers. Similarly, reducing natural runoff will help reduce pollution. And this pollution can come in the form of algae blooms. According to Dr. Sharpley, a soil scientist at ARS University Park Lab, generally most of the phosphorus running off watersheds comes from only a small area of land during a few large storms. So, the Chesapeake Bay as we know it won't be available to future generations unless we take actions and make these changes now. From opting to use organic pesticides, alternatives, and reducing the amount of weed killers we use, we can ultimately save the bay.